Hi, second graders. Welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Thursday, February 11th. Happy Thursday. I'm so glad I'm here with you today. Let's check in with our zone this morning. Gus, how are you doing today? Here, let's move you closer so you can see what we're doing. How are you feeling? What zone are you in? You're feeling green. Well, you are green, but you're feeling green too? Oh, good. Okay. Why are you feeling green? You're calm, you're focused, and you're happy. Okay? Friends, I'm feeling greenish blue. I'm green because I'm focused and I'm calm, but I'm blue because I am tired. Because guess who didn't sleep well last night? Me. Because Oliver woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm a little bit tired, but not too tired. So I'm mostly green with a hint of blue. How are you feeling today? What zone are you in? Thanks for asking, or thanks for sharing. Oh, maybe I'm not as focused as I thought I was. What I would like you to do is to ask someone around you how they're feeling. By asking people how they're feeling, we show empathy and that we care about their feelings and their days. So you've shared with me. Now I want you to ask someone so they can share with you. Great. It feels good when we have empathy for others. Let's go ahead and get going with our What's Missing Thursday. Now, we know that when we have something missing, we have to figure out what we know before we can figure out what we don't know. So let's take a look at our first slide. Okay, I'm going to make my number bond. What do we know? Gus, yes, we know the whole is 48. What else do we know? One of the parts is 16. So what are we trying to find? We're trying to find the other part, or sometimes people call it the missing addend. Yeah. Well, how do we solve something where we know one of the parts and we know the whole? Okay, you have a couple different options. You can subtract or you can count on. Use a strategy that works best for you. Okay, did you get an answer? The answer is 32. Because 8 minus 6 is 2 and 4 minus 1 is 3. Pretty cool, huh? I think it's pretty great. Let's go on to the next one. What do we know? Let's do our number bond. What do we know? Again, Pebble, yes, 48 is our whole again. This time, 15 is our part. Now, 16 was our part here. Now I want you to think about, you've got two parts. One hand has 16 and one hand has 32. What happens if I take one from this hand to make it 15 and I pop it over there? I still have 48, so I didn't take any away. Didn't add any. I had 16 and 32. Now I have 15 in this hand and I put one over there. So what's this hand going to be now? Yeah, it's going to be 33. How could we check that mental math? What could we do? Yeah, we could add it up. What's 33 and 15? 48. Did it work? It did. Can't use that strategy anymore because it's now 48. So, what do we know? We know that the whole is 76. What else do we know? We know one of the parts is 25. So what are we going to do? Go ahead, solve it. What'd you get for the other part, Gus? 51? That's what I got too. 51 plus 25 equals 76. Gus, how did you figure that out? Oh, No, you said 25 to 50 is 25, and then 50 to 75 is another 25, that's 50, and then one more is 51? Great, I did. 76 minus 25, 6 ones minus 5 ones is 1, and 7 tenths minus 2 tenths is 5 tenths, which is 51. Both strategies took about the same amount of time. Doesn't matter which one you use, but we got it right. Okay, let's look at the next one. What do we know? We know 98 is the whole. And what's our parts? 50 and something else. What's it going to be? 50 and what makes 98? Well, solve. Very good. Yes, Mr. Kevin?
I was just going to say, 98's awfully close to 100.
It is awfully close to 100. It's actually only 2 away from 100. So if I went from 50 to 100, that would be 50. But it's 2 less than that. So what would it be? 48. Another way you could think of it is this. Well, I've got 50. To get to 90 is 40. And to get to 98 is just 8 more. So it's 48. Or you could do 98 minus 50. 8 minus 0 is 8. And 9 tenths minus 5 tenths is 4 tenths. So you get 48. There's so many different ways to fluently solve these problems. There's not only one way to be fluent. Okay, last one. What do we know? You're right, Gus. This one looks different. It looked different than the other ones. What's different about it? We're subtracting. So don't go so fast that you don't realize when something changes. So what do we know? Oh, 68's our whole. What are our parts? 28 and we don't know. What are you going to do to solve? Whoa, Pebble, that was fast. Pebble said it's 40. How did you know that, Pebble? Well, he said because we know one part's 28, and 28 to 68 is 40, because 4 plus 2 is 6. Nice job, Pebble. All right, today we're developing strategies for skip counting from a non-zero number. So we're continuing our work from yesterday, okay? So we're gonna go slow, and when we get done, we get done. We might end early today, I don't know, we'll see. So it says, complete the forward and backward skip counting patterns. Did you know you can skip count forward and backwards? Think about what you might need to do if you're skip counting backwards. Are their numbers going to get greater or less? Let's look at A. What is the pattern that's happening in A? We have 821, 831, 841. What place value is changing in this pattern? What are you noticing the pattern is? It goes 2 tens, 3 tens, 4 tens, and the hundreds and the ones stay the same. Go ahead and write on your whiteboard, what are the next 3 numbers in this pattern? About 10 seconds. Okay, so 8's going to stay the same. The 4 is going up by 1 10 each time. So that would be 5, 851, 861, 871. Okay, let's look at the next problem. B, 349, 449, 549. What place value is changing in this pattern? What are you noticing is changing? 349, 449, 549. Yes, Gus. Gus said, I noticed that the numbers in the front of each number are changing. Friends at home, help Gus. What does he mean by the numbers in the front of each number is changing? The digit. Oh, the digit in the hundreds place. For these numbers, the first digit in our number is the hundreds place. Gus said is changing, and I would agree. It goes 300, 400, 500. So what are the next three numbers? 349, 449, 549. Great. 649, 749, 849. Pretty great. Let's look at the next one. 920, 915, 910. What's changing here? This one's not as easy to see. So I'm guessing it's not a pattern that involves a 10, a 1, or 100, because those patterns are easy to see. So what's happening here? 20, the 900s are staying the same. 920, 915, 910. This is a little different. See if you can figure out what the next three numbers are. What's happening here? Okay, what are you noticing is changing? The 900 staying the same. What's changing though? Right, it went from 20 to 15. The tens and the ones changed, and then just the ones changed. So I've got 20, 15, 10. What is the change that's happening between those numbers? How many do I skip count backwards by to go from 20 to 15? Oh, we're taking away 5. And then 15 to 10, we're taking away 5. So what's going to be next? 905, because we're taking away 5. And then what's going to be next? 900. Now this is where it gets tricky. What's next if I'm taking away 5 from 900? 895. Whew. Because 900, 898, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95. 895. Okay, let's look at the next one. 783, 773, and then way over here it says 743. What digit is changing in this pattern? Yeah, the tens place. We've got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. I think that works. Let's try it. Let's write it in. On your whiteboard, write it. 763, 753. Yep, 743, 733, 723. Great job, second graders. Now, let's do a story problem. Sadie says when she starts skip counting forward by tens from 590, both the tens digit and the hundreds digit change. Is Sadie correct? Explain. Let's read that again. Sadie says when she starts skip counting forward, so she's going to be going forward, that means our numbers will be getting greater. By tens, she's at 590. She says when she gets to the next number, both the tens digit and the hundreds digit are going to change. Is Sadie correct? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. What do you think? Is Sadie correct? Why? Mr. Kevin, what do you think? Do you think Sadie's correct?
I do, at least once.
Oh, why do you think that?
Well, if I were to start with 590 and I'm counting by tens, the next 10 is 600.
Remember when we were doing those base 10 blocks and we made a group of 10 tens and it made that 100 square? That's what's going on here. There's 9 tens in this number. And so then I'm going to add another 10 and all of a sudden I have another group of 100. So this becomes 600. Oh. Okay, what's the next number then, friends? Is it 700? No, because we're counting by tens. It'd be 610, 620, and so on. What happens if we get to 690? What happens next? The same thing. Now we're at 700. It was kind of like back here when we were skip counting by the fives, how it kind of got funny where it was like sometimes just the ones place would change, sometimes the tens and the ones digit would change because we were crossing over groups of 10. Pretty interesting. Now, which numbers are we going to put in the squares? This is like being a detective. So let's see. Let's first look at what the pattern is that's happening on our number line. What are you noticing about the numbers? I've got blank, and then I have 265, 270, blank, 280, 285, 290, 295. They're counting by fives. Well, if I'm counting by fives, I know there's one number that is not going to be on my number line. It's this one, 296, because we're counting by fives starting at zeros or fives, so it's not going to have a 6. So I can just get that one out of the way. If I'm at 270, what comes next if I'm counting by fives? 275, so this would be C, 275. So I know we're going to use C. What else are we going to use? Great. I heard someone say, well, if you're at 265 and you take 5 away, that puts you at 260. So the first one is B, 260. Love it. What's this last one going to be if we're at 295? Kind of talks about what we were just talking about. If I'm at 295 and I add 5 more ones, that means my ones are going to turn into no ones because I'm going to regroup it into the tens, right? But now I'm going to have another group of 10 and I already have 9. So that's going to regroup into the hundreds. So I'm going to have 300. What letter is 300? E. Look at that. We figured it out. Now, friends, let's take a look at your assignment for today. You're going to do page 375 and 376 in your math workbook. Practicing this. Practicing looking at patterns and skip counting. Today, we developed strategies for skip counting from a non-zero number. We identified place values that were changing. We looked for what the change was. Is it adding a 10 or 100, or is it adding 5s? And looking at the amount in between each hop. We identified patterns when we skip count by 5s and 10s. We used those patterns to skip count from any number, and we found a solution using skip counting pattern. Now, Mr. Kevin, if they want to send us something here at the TV classroom, how would they do that?
Yes, well, you know, skip counting by 5s and 10s is very easy, but you know what's easier?
What?
Sending an email to TV Classroom.
Oh, Mr. Kevin, you're so funny.
TV Classroom at tacoma.k12.wa.us, or you can always mail us at TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
We would love to see your work, and if you want us to, we could even show it on the TV Classroom. Now, friends, it's time for your break. You need to make sure you have your ELA packet, your learning buddy, your pencil, and you ready to go for Learning with Miss Oslin. You're going to take your break, take care of your needs, stretch your legs, get some water, and then be back here ready to learn when she comes on the screen. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday, second graders, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Rules. 1. You have 10 seconds to pick your crewmate. 2. A new timer will appear with an exercise for the crewmate you picked. 3. You will get 10 points for each correct crewmate and exercise you choose. 4. If you pick the imposter, you will lose all your points. 5. See how many points you can get. Good luck.
second graders, welcome back from your break. Excellent job gathering your materials and being ready for our lesson. You can take your ELA packet, your writing notebook, your pencil, and just put those off to the side. And you can keep your learning buddy in your lap if they are going to help you focus. Okay, as we start to think about second graders returning to school part-time, which is very exciting, we're going to remind ourselves about our independent learning habits and how our independent learning habits can make you a stronger reader and writer, because you're not just learning when you're on the tablet or TV or computer with me, and you're not just learning when you're in front of your teacher. You're also learning, in fact, one might argue, some of your most important learning happens when you're working by yourself, when you're learning independently. So today we're going to remind ourselves about our strong independent learning habits. And when you are trying to find an independent workspace, I want you thinking about some questions. I want you thinking, is the seat comfortable for you to sit in? Is it too small or too large or just right? Is the atmosphere good? Meaning, what's happening around you? Would it be a good idea for me to go outside and work right now? No, not if it's raining. But if it's dry and warm, then yes, that would be a good atmosphere for me to work in. Is it a quiet area? Can you concentrate on what you're reading? Now, this is where you really have to think about who you are as a learner, because if I'm trying to get some work done and it's too quiet, I don't work as well. I start to find little things to distract myself. But if I have some music or a podcast on in the background, I can really focus. So you might be different. You might be someone who needs total silence. And that's where you need to think about who you are as a learner and ask your adult around you for help. Now, another question that you could ask yourself is it an area where you won't be interrupted frequently? Now, if you're sitting somewhere and there's going to be a lot of people coming in and out and walking around you, and that doesn't work for you, you're going to want to ask your adult for help finding you a place where you won't be interrupted. Now, you might be at Baker Middle School or at Mason Middle School doing your independent learning through Y-Care or Metro Parks. Well, there's people around you and you can't help that. So maybe ask an adult if they could help get a cardboard box up to create like a barrier around you so that you can focus better. That might work for you. And finally, I need you paying really close attention when you're finding your independent workspace to the light. Make sure you have enough light that you can see, because if it's too dark, first of all, it's not good for your eyes, but second of all, you're not really going to be able to concentrate and focus. So I want to show you my independent workspace, and my chair is just right. I have it set to the just right height and it's very comfortable. The atmosphere is good. I'm away from a window, so there's no breeze coming in, there's no water dripping in, it's dry. I have plenty of light. There's not a lot of coming and going. And it's pretty quiet. Usually when I'm working, Mrs. Wally is here teaching, so her voice in the background kind of helps me focus. Now, Mabel, our buddy Mabel, was trying to find an independent work spot for herself. And I want you to look at these three pictures, and what do you notice? Thinking about, is it comfortable? Is there plenty of light? Does she have her materials? Do you think she's going to be able to focus? What about the atmosphere? Take some think time. Now I'm looking at that first picture. Yeah, it's too dark. I don't think Mabel can see well enough to get her work done. And the second one, there's plenty of light, and it looks like she has plenty of space. I don't know if she would be very comfortable sitting on the linoleum. Maybe she would be. But her materials, yeah, they're not well organized. They're around, they're spread out. So if she were going to have to get up to get her crayons, she would have to get up, walk over, get her crayons, walk back, and then by the time she sits down, she may have forgotten what she was going to color and draw about. So it's best to have your independent learning materials organized and together when you get started. Now that last picture, let's see. I see there's a lamp there that has plenty of light. She has all of her materials. She looks very comfortable, and it doesn't look like there would be a lot of people interrupting her. So I think that last place is a ding, 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 a strong independent work spot. Now, thinking about you at home, you might work best sitting at a table and a chair, like some of the children in this picture. You might work best sitting on the ground or in a beanbag chair. Again, you need to think about who you are as a learner and what works best for you to be able to focus when you're working by yourself. Now, we are going to review a book that we read at the beginning of the school year called Miss Brooks Loves Books and I Don't. Now, part of having an independent workspace and being an independent learner is also knowing what kinds of books do you enjoy reading? Because you're going to be gathering your materials, getting your independent books so that you can sit down and read for longer and longer periods of time by yourself. And you're going to want to make sure that you choose books that are interesting to you, that you want to read. Because even I am someone who loves reading, but if I get a book and it's not interesting to me, I'm not going to be able to read. I'm not going to focus, and I'm not going to grow as a reader or a writer. So let's read Barbara Botner's story, illustrated by Michael Emberley. Miss Brooks is our librarian. She loves books a lot. She loves The Runaway Bunny and Barber and Where the Wild Things Are and The Very Hungry Caterpillar. I asked Miss Brooks why she dresses up for reading circle. I want you to get as excited as books as I am, she says. I think Miss Brooks gets a little too excited, and I bet her costumes itch. Halloween means we each have to find a poem to share, but all the books with witches, ghosts, and goblins are checked out, and I hate pumpkins. So I make up a Halloween poem of my own. The class looks at me funny. Miss Brooks says, well, it's a start. All year long, Miss Brooks reads us books. Books about dragons and pilgrims and presidents. Books about love and leprechauns. Groundhogs even. It's vexing. It's book week. Then, in May, Miss Brooks tells us about something truly terrifying. Book Week. You each need to pick a favorite story to share with the class. I want you to wear a costume and tell us all about it. Really show us why you love it, she says. I'll never love a book the way you do, I tell Miss Brooks. Don't be so sure, she says. When I get home, I ask my mother if we can move to a new town. My mother says there's a librarian in every town. I ask if she wants to do my assignment for me. I've already been in first grade, says my mother. So now we have our character, and the setting is she's going back and forth between school and home. The problem is, our character is having a hard time finding a book that they want to share for Book Week. Now, take some time and think about who you are as a reader. What kind of book would you want to share? Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Gus, I really like historical fiction books. They're books that have some history in them, but then there's a fiction story that follows a historical line or has historical themes or events from history. I think that would be fun because then I could dress up in historical costumes. Every single day of Book Week, kids share stories about trains and ferries and cowboys and dogs. When Miss Brooks asks what I think, I say, too flowery, too furry. Too clickety, too yippity. So Miss Brooks fills my bag with more books for me to read with my mom. Now, why do you think Miss Brooks is trying so hard to get our character to find a book that they enjoy? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Gus, I think Miss Brooks is trying so hard to find a book for our character to enjoy because Miss Brooks herself enjoys books and she wants everyone to have the same joy. But I don't like any of them. They're too kissy, too pink, and too silly, I tell my mother. You're as stubborn as a wart, she says. Warts? Do you know what a wart is? Sometimes on your skin, you can get like a little growth. It can be a wart. So she's interested in a little growth on your skin. Warts! My mother finds a book called Shrek. Shrek has hairs on his nose and he snorts. Snort. I love that. Can you read it again? I love this book. I have to practice the words over and over, but my mother helps. Then we make an ogre costume. I make stick-on warts for the whole class. So an ogre would be like Shrek, if you've ever seen the movie or read the books. Shrek is an ogre. It's a fictitious creature that's green, and like you can see her dressed up in the picture there as an ogre. When I get to school the next day, I ask Miss Brooks to lend me a hand. When I say the word snort, the whole class snorts. I explain why a stubborn, smelly, snorty ogre searching for a revolting bride makes me laugh. Do you see Miss Brooks in the back there? She's sitting there, she has her hand up like this. Like, yeah, she's proud of her. Miss Brooks says she's glad I found a book to love. She says that even ogres like me can find something funny and fantastic and appalling in the library. And that is the slimy truth. Now, second graders, as you go off to do your independent learning, you're going to remember that independent learning habits make you a stronger reader and writer. And part of having strong independent learning habits is finding a workspace that works for you wherever you are, whether you're in your classroom at school, or you're at home, or you're at Y-Care, or you're at daycare, or you're at Auntie's house. You need to find an independent learning space. That's part of your habit. Make sure your chair is comfortable. It's not too big, it's not too small. Make sure that there's no water or anything in the atmosphere. Make sure that you have all the materials that you need. So if you're going to go off and do independent reading, you need to make sure that you have plenty of books that you like. Think about who you are as a reader. Like our character had to find books. They worked really hard to find books that would work for them. If you're doing your writing, you need to make sure you have your writing notebook. You need to make sure you have all of your phonics charts that are going to help you. You need to make sure you have your pencil, crayons, your learning buddy to help you. And I want you to think about drawing and writing about why you chose your independent work spot and how is that going to help you be a stronger reader and writer. And then you can send that to us here at our TV classroom. Mr. Kevin, can you tell them how they're going to send us their
Absolutely.
writing?
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So you can send it via email to tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us, or you can mail it to us here at the Central Administration Building to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Now, second graders, this is the time in our lesson when we get to say our affirmation. We get to say positive things about ourselves before we go off and tackle that really tricky work of being an independent learner. Now, I want you to remind yourself today that I am an independent learner. Say that out loud with me. I am an independent learner. Excellent job today, second graders. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.